You have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. For the past several weeks, we have been listening to Jesus giving a sermon on the side of a mountain. He is teaching his disciples and the crowds that came out to see him, encompassing 3 full chapters. The Sermon on the Mount is Jesus' longest discourse in the Gospel of Matthew. It seems to sum up all that Jesus came here to teach, and it is the place to look if we are trying to figure out what we are to be doing. The Israelites were a people who were defined by God's law. That is to say, that God's law given to them through Moses on Mount Sinai is what set them apart to be the people of God. It is what gave them their identity as God's chosen people. As we heard today from the book of Leviticus, when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not strip your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the alien. I am the Lord your God. Inherent in that very last phrase is also its corollary, which oftentimes is said with it throughout the Old Testament. I am the Lord your God, and you are my people. In other words, God's command to be generous is given as a way to be God's chosen people. Now, for us, we tend to think of the Mosaic law, this law of Moses, as something that does not really apply to us. I, for one, like to eat lobster, crab, and bacon, and all of those are prohibited by the law of Moses. In the early church, in the early Christian church, there was much debate about whether or not non-Jewish converts to the faith ought to also follow the law of Moses as the Jewish converts to the faith were doing. The answer that emerged after a very long struggle was no. What gave the emerging Christian church its identity was not the bonds of law, but rather the bonds of grace and love. In the Gospel of John, Jesus tells his disciples, "The world will know that you are my followers if you have love for one another." But then there's this thesis of this entire Sermon on the Mount that we heard a few weeks ago, for all 3 chapters of it. And it's this: do not think that I've come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not even one stroke of one letter, will pass from the law until it is all accomplished. And so he begins then to teach what this means. You have heard it is said, do not murder, but I say to you, do not be angry. You have heard it said, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. Through these reversals, you have heard it said, but I say to you, or like we heard in the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor and the meek and the mild. Jesus gets away from the letter of the law and straight into its heart. You have heard it said, you shall not reap to the very edges of your fields, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall leave them for the poor and the alien, but I say to you, give to everyone who begs from you. If we give to everyone who begs from us, we will have nothing left. And believe it or not, that is exactly what Jesus is asking you to do. Turn the cheek. Give the cloak. Go another mile. Lend to anyone. Give to all who beg from you. Love your enemy. Jesus will give his cheeks to those who will strike him. He will give his back to the flogged. He will give his face to be spit upon. He will carry a heavy wooden cross to the place of his execution. And when he is nailed to that cross, he will pray for those who are killing him. Father, forgive them. These are not idle words. We are called to love as God loves us. Jesus' words we heard today are not about how we are supposed to behave. If they were, we'd be doomed to fail. Instead, they are about how we are supposed to live. The law of Jesus begets life, not behavior. To love as God loves us is rooted in that promise that we heard today. Love your enemies and pray for those who hurt you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. Jesus were just talking about us. This would be a nice, concise idealism never to be attained, but he's not. All of this points to him. What does God's love for us look like? Look at Jesus and you will see it. And in Jesus, you have the power to change the world. If you follow the God that is revealed in Jesus Christ, your love will begin to look like his before you even realize it. That is the power of Jesus that is working in you. Jesus' call to turn the other cheek, to go the extra mile, to give the thief more than he takes, is not a call to be weak and to be trampled upon. Quite the opposite. It is a call to stand in the strength and the power of God. A power so strong, it changed the course of the world. In the mid-1950s, there was a group of missionaries trying to reach out to the Wadani tribe in the Amazon. The Wadani were violent and were caught in a cycle of violence and counter-violence for a very, very long time. They were classified by anthropologists at the time as the most violent society on the face of the earth. Well over half of the Wadani men died before the age of 50, writhing at the end of the spear. When the missionaries finally made contact, the Wadani killed all 5 of the missionary men. The women, the wives of those men, in a testament to their faith, stayed with the Wadani, with their children. And they taught by the things that they said and the things that they did that when Gangi, the Wadani's chief creator god, had a son who was speared, did not spear back. And in so doing, they broke the cycle of violence that had been their way of life and brought it to an end. Could you love like that? You bet you can. Absolutely. Is Jesus' command to love your enemy just some nice idea that we hope is going to come true someday? Absolutely not. It's a lot harder to love your enemy than it is to hate him. It's a lot harder to give to all who beg from you than it is to turn a blind eye. But the power of God is in you to accomplish it. Stephen Saint, who was one of the children of the missionaries that was killed, forgave and befriended the man that killed his father. The man who had killed this boy's father was now his beloved friend and would eventually baptize the grandchildren of the man that he killed on the very banks of the river where he killed him. A cycle of violence so complete that there were no grandfathers among the Wadani. And this was broken by one simple command: love those who hate you. And now there's lots of grandfathers among the Wadani. There is no promise that being a follower of Jesus will be easy. There is no promise that being a follower of Jesus will be safe. Quite the contrary. Being a follower of Jesus is very difficult and it's quite dangerous. This morning, as we were getting ready to process in and Emmy was carrying the book, Joe leaned into her and said, "Hold that gospel high." This year, 300,000 people have died for that gospel. Give to all who beg from you. Love your enemy. Quit standing up for your rights and start standing up to love the one who's infringing upon you. Stand up to love the one who is not lovable. After all, that's exactly what Jesus did for you. And because of that love, you are being made the children of God. because of that love, you have the power to change the world.